Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Thursday. It is the 24th day of February 2022. I hope this Thursday morning finds you and your family in good health, and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field along with the first responders, trying every day to accomplish one purpose: to save lives. Blessings upon those that pick up garbage for us, keep streets and sidewalks and highways clean, and those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women trying to deliver, rescue, and help recover the victims of child molestation and pedophilia, the victims of prostitution and child prostitution, the victims of pornography and child pornography, the victims of human trafficking and sex slavery, and double curses upon the perpetrators, the profiteers, and the perverts who traffic in this human misery. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. Nearly 600,000 men, women, and children on the streets of the United States of America in February, and millions around the world in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. There's been a lot going on in Knicks Nation in the last few days. Let me just get this out the way. Today's video, by the way, is going to be about why the Knicks are still on pace for championship contention in a couple of seasons. But that's the second part. First part is, yesterday it was announced that the Knicks shut down Kemba Walker for the rest of the season. I don't know why that's such a big deal. We kind of knew that was happening. If they would have trotted out Kemba Walker at Madison Square Garden on Friday, I think there would have been a mutiny, considering what has happened. Now, I just want to remind y'all, about maybe 10 days ago, I did a video where I told y'all that the next 5 games, which started with the Nets game, was going to determine when the Knicks were going to start playing the young ones, right? And that is why you're going to probably see Alec Burks start at point guard on Friday. This is what's going on, y'all. So the Kemba move was anticipated. That was going to happen, right? So we're not surprised at that. And that whole thing about he chose to do it was just propaganda, the way the Knicks framed it. For example, they could have came to Kemba and said, we give you 3 choices. You could be waived, you could be bought out, or you could just sit for the rest of the year into the summer, and we'll work something out then. And he chose plan C, right? So that they can say he chose to do this. And that's why Tom Thibodeau could say this was between a man, his agent and Leon. When Tom very well knows he did not want Kemba, from the beginning. But this is how they politically handle it, and that's cool. I mean, they handle it that way to ice off all of the drama that would come if they said it probably the way it really happened. But we kind of knew that was going to happen. That was foregone conclusion. But I said 5 games. Now we have 4, right? So the next 4 games are going to be a determining factor. And this is what's going on right now. Tom Thibodeau, for all of his talk about not skipping steps, and we're going to talk about that, wants to win now. Always. Okay? And before yesterday's practice, the presser he had after the debacle against the Nets, man, you start hearing him talk about development like you never heard Tom Thibodeau talk about development before, right? You never heard him talk about development on that level. And he mentioned everybody except Jericho Sims and Deuce McBride, right? He mentioned all the youngins. He said RJ, Mitch, Obi, IQ. He mentioned all of them. Grimes. He did not mention Cam. He did not mention Cam. He did not mention Deuce. He did not mention Jericho. There's a reason for that. We'll talk about that. But they play at Madison Square Garden against Miami tomorrow night. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Philly on Sunday, at Madison Square Garden against Philly on Wednesday. Then there's at Phoenix. These next 4 games, how the Knicks perform, are going to determine if Deuce McBride will be starting point guard by, let's say, March 9th against Dallas? Or is he going to keep doing the same thing? He and the management, they made a deal. This is just me talking, right? But they done made a deal. Listen, give me these next couple of games. Now that I got Derek healthy, I think we can make a run. And if you recall, he said, last year it was like this until this time of the year. Then we started making a run, and it coincided with them getting Derrick Rose. Again, it's stupid to me. It's stubbornness, now being completely stupid. First of all, they asked him about her point guard situation. Alec Burks has been our best point guard. What is that saying to a team that's like 9 games under 500? And not only that, if you look at all the champions in the last 4 or 5 years, so let's go back to the bubble. Before the bubble, the last time LeBron won a championship that was outside of the bubble, he had a point guard. Kyrie Irving. Okay? In the bubble, when they won the championship, they got over the finish line because they employed Rajon Rondo at that time to close for them. The Milwaukee Bucks has a point guard, Drew Holiday. They played against the Phoenix Suns in the finals with a point guard, CP3. There's no positionless when it comes to a point guard. You need a point guard. But he is trying to avoid Deuce. Now, the question would be, he pushed for Deuce. Why is he trying to avoid him? I mean, he wanted to draft the kid. Deuce represents rebuild. Tom don't even want to think about rebuild. If he know he got to play Deuce McBride, he know he's committed to a rebuild. And he don't want to hear that. He don't want to deal with that. He'd rather be dealing with Deuce 2 years from now, when he finally gets some time. But to have Deuce now means rebuild, a rookie point guard. He doesn't want to accept what most of us understand. We're in year 2 of a rebuild. Okay? And we'll talk about what happened in terms of the retardation of that. But now we're getting back on track. We're going to talk about that in a second. But, so he's going to start Alec Burks, right? He's going to start Alec Burks. And it depends on how RJ's feeling. RJ said his ankle wasn't 100% yet. Right? And then they asked him about D Rose, and he said, well, he's going to work. See, he wants to make sure RJ and D Rose are ready, because that's when his countdown starts. He gets RJ and D Rose and they're still losing. You're getting ready to see Deuce. He don't want to see Deuce because Deuce represents the rebuild. Not that he would never play Deuce. Not that he hates Deuce. No. He don't trust any rookie point guard. See? So he wants veterans because he wants to win now. And management saying, okay, we're going to let you get your D Rose toy back. We're going to let you get RJ back. And yeah, okay. We'll see what you do. But he's going to have 4 games once they come back. So I would not be surprised if D Rose sat tomorrow and if RJ sat tomorrow because he wants to get them 4 games. Okay? And he wants to go on a run to prove to management he don't need to be looking at rebuild. All right? That's what he wants. And look, you know what? I say, okay, let him do it. Because it's nothing but good for the Knicks. If they make a run, great. Of course, we'd rather play the kids, but if they don't, we're going to see the kids. We're going to see Deuce McBride, the point guard. Even his boy, Mark Berman, said that. If you see them lose a bunch of games at the beginning of March, you're going to see Deuce McBride as a point guard before the end of the month. And I agree with Berman on that one. Okay? We would all like to see all of you starting right now this Friday. But I told y'all, it's a 5 games he's going to have, starting with the Nets, which he blew already. That's done. Now he got Miami, Philly, Phoenix. And, so like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if D Rose rested and maybe even RJ. Man, he might bring RJ out, but then he's got a big decision to make. Because you're dealing with Evan Fournier still. Evan Fournier was yesterday practicing in the blue, dark blue like this. That's starter's blue. So you can't sit Grimes. Not now. Okay? So he got decision. He said yesterday at the practice, he said, we got a logjam situation. Yes, you do. That's why he was reportedly upset that they didn't make deals during the trade deadline. He don't want to have to make these decisions with vets and hear Fournier whining at the end of the season here. He don't want to do that. I don't blame him. And management kind of put him in that's Leon, put him in that position. And now they cleaned up one part of it with Kemba. Okay. So it's what it is. And y'all talking about drafting like a guy like an Ivy. Where he going to play? Where he going to play? In front of Cam? In front of RJ? In front of Grimes? Where exactly is Ivy going to play? If they draft him. Not in front of any of those guys. And don't let him keep Fournier another year. Forget it. See what I'm saying? So this whole big hype about Kemba being out. That's why I didn't do no emergency video yesterday like I did when they signed Kemba, because this was expected. This is not unexpected. It would have been disappointing if they kept Kemba for Friday. So this is okay. That's done. Now talk to us about Burks. What you going to do with him? Well, we already know now. He's the starting point guard. And he's not a point guard. And no, see this, I'm disappointed in Tom talking this BS about positionless. You might be able to do positionless for every other position, but you cannot do it at the point guard spot. I just named you 4 champions. All of them have something in common. A full-time point guard. Okay, all of them. Not no guy that's a wing playing the point guard. The only exception to this is LeBron himself. Because LeBron is a generational type of talent. There's not many LeBrons coming down the pipe. Right? So it's not surprising that he likes to handle the ball a lot and call plays and stuff. But he's the exception that proves the rule. Even him, when he wins the championship, needs a point guard. All right? So this whole positionless thing is just, it's a cop-out. And I'm really disappointed in tears with that. That's a cop-out. He's just trying to avoid playing deuce. He wasn't planning on playing no rookie point guard. And rookie point guard to him means rebuild, and he don't want to think in those terms. But let me explain to you why this is year 2 of the rebuild and why we're getting ready to go into year 3 of the rebuild. See, that's what's messing us up. Last year's success caused us all, including myself, I admit, to forget we was in a rebuild and to abandon the whole principle of rebuild. So then they go and get veterans we don't need and we regress. Let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, okay? Let's talk about them for a second. The Cleveland Cavaliers, okay, in 2018, they drafted Colin Sexton in 2018. That was their draft pick in 2018. Colin Sexton, who was a starter before he got hurt. They drafted Darius Garland in 2019, a starter now, and an all-star, okay? In 2020, they were in the lottery again, and they drafted another starter, Isaac Okoro. Then last year, of course, they got Evan Mobley at the 3rd overall pick, 4 starters and 1 all-star. Then they picked up another starter in Jarrett Allen, who they got at what would be the equivalent of an estate sale. See, you can get really good deals in an estate sale. You can get antiques, you can get valuable stuff in an estate sale, right? Sometimes the best cars to buy is a car from some old head that passed away because ain't no miles on it, right? It might be 10 years old and only have 10,000 miles on it, right? That's a estate sale. Well, the estate sale they got Jarrett Allen on was the Brooklyn Nets. So you had Kenny Atkinson take a bunch of guys, rookies, cast-offs, and turn them into a playoff team. Okay? And then because of that, Kyrie Irving wanted to come to the Nets and he talked Durant into joining him. Then they wanted to get a James Harden. So they ended up selling all of the assets they had to build up to that point to get these big 3, including Jarrett Allen, who the Cavaliers scooped up and signed him to $100 million, which at the time people were scratching their head. Well, they're not scratching their head anymore. Let me tell you something about Jarrett Allen. He don't shoot 3-pointers. Guess what? He defends the rim, runs the floor, finishes with power. I think we got a guy like that. Speaking of that, let's talk about the Knicks. So that's 4 years of drafting, and those picks got them, plus they had a veteran in Kevin Love, who was a starter, who now they bring off the bench. Then they recently picked up Karis LeVert and Rajon Rondo. That's like the finishing little pieces. But the core is what I just named to y'all. They started with their core, and then they developed it, and now in their 5th season, look at what's going on. Now let's talk about the Knicks. In 2018, it was deceptive. Our first round pick was Kevin Knox. Now that was obviously a bust pick, right? But if you look back on it now, wish Kevin the best, but he didn't work out here. But we also got Mitchell Robinson in the 2nd round, a starter. And even Kevin Knox turned into Cam Reddish, right? Cam Reddish was a top 10 pick, right? In what was it? 2019. Cam Reddish was 10th pick in 2019. So we turned our 9th pick in 2018 for the 10th pick in 2019. And Cam is a rotation player. So we got Mitchell Robinson, the starter, and a rotation piece in Cam, who may eventually be a starter. That's 2018. Also in 2019, we got RJ Barrett, another starter. So far we got a rotation player and 2 starters in the last 4 seasons. Wait a minute. 2020, we get Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley, 2 rotation players. So now we got 2 starters and 2 rotation players from 3 drafts. Then 2021. Okay, we all know 2021. We get Grimes, a starter. Joku Bidas, draft and stash in Europe, point guard. Deuce, who should be a starter eventually, but right now he's out of the rotation. And Jericho Sims. And I'm saying Deuce will be in the rotation next season. Okay, he's not this year because he represents rebuild. But he might still get there depending on how these next 4 or 5 games go. So, but look at what we did. In the last 4 drafts, we got Mitchell Robinson, a starter. We got RJ Barrett, a starter. Quentin Grimes, a starter. And then we got rotational players in Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley, as well as Cam Reddish. That is rebuild. That is rebuild. Now, Tom don't like rebuild, but I'm telling you, the fact that after that next game, he started talking. I've been watching Tom Thibodeau a long time. I have never heard him say anything like that about development and name that many kids. Even if he didn't mention Deuce, he named Mitchell Robinson, RJ Barrett, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes, and he even included Julius Randle, who is only 27 years old, just reaching his prime, in the rebuild. I mean, as development. That's another word for rebuild. Okay? And why? He's been talked to. They had to talk. People pointing fingers at him from the front office. Okay? But it's half the front office's fault. Because they tried to skip rebuild. And this is the thing that kills me. I have heard, maybe you've heard, when Thibodeau first came here, they kept asking him about the players and what he was doing. And he kept saying this one phrase: you can't skip steps. There's certain steps you got to take as a player. You can't skip steps. And yet this same fool trying to skip steps to win now. I mean, that's really one of the frustrating things about him. But he's been talked to. So they giving him a chance because Leon made this up. He did it. He brought in these veterans. So, okay, Tom, we're going to let you get your D Rose back. We're going to let you get your RJ, who's part of the development anyway, back. And we're going to see what we're going to do with your Burks at point guard and your Fournier. Okay, we're going to see what you're going to do. And if they start losing, you're going to see full rebound. Deuce McBride starting. Quentin Grimes starting. RJ starting. Mitch starting with Julius Randle. You're going to see Obi get more time. Cam get more time. IQ, you're going to see Mobb Deep be like that with D Rose as the vet. And we'll be better. That's why I said also, I did another video. I said the best is yet to come, believe it or not. Because if they keep losing, that's what you're going to see, and we'll be better. See, Tom is in his own way. We just did the same blueprint that Cleveland did. We just didn't play our kids the way we should have. That's what we did. We should have played our kids. Okay? We should have played our kids. Now, to the credit, now, RJ has been a starter since he came in 2019. Okay? Mitch Rob was the full-time starter last year. He got hurt, as we know. And he's been the full-time starter this year. So we know that, now Quentin Grimes, as a rookie, is now starting. Okay? We know that Obi Toppin wasn't getting a lot of time, and this year he's still not getting enough, in my opinion, but he's in the rotation. We know also that IQ is obviously in the rotation, been there since his rookie year. So we do have those 5 guys that have been either starters or rotational pieces for the last 2 years. That's the beginning of our rebuild. Now, these guys, just like Cleveland, they're all going to get better. They're all going to get better. Jared Allen's an all-star this year. Mitchell Robinson is just a year away, I think, from that. A year away. And not only that, let me tell you another thing. If they smart, they'll keep him, and he'll work on some offensive game. If Mitch Rob adds a mid-range, not have to be a 3. If he adds a mid-range jump shot, like something foul line extended, it's a wrap. Okay? And let him have a summer where he can work out and get in shape for training camp this year. He's Jared Allen next year. Okay? If they keep him. If they're able to keep him. The media already talking mess, trying to angles to get him away from the Knicks. I can see it already. Y'all know the media hate. It's obvious. No Knicks in the Rising Stars game. I just named you all these starters. No Knicks in the Rising Stars game. That's media hate right there. That's Dolan hate. All good. We Knicks Nation. Flock them. You know what I'm saying? So, no problem. So, but Mitch Rob, they better resign him. Okay? They better resign him. And hope they can keep him. Because that's what we're dealing with next year. We got Jared Allen already. We got RJ. We already got our RJ. We got our Darius Garland. Right? We got our Colin Sexton. That's IQ. Off the bench. Because that's what Colin gonna end up doing. Unless he leaves and becomes a starter somewhere like New York. But we'll see. But that's where we at. We have been doing well in the last 4 years. Drafting. And you do that to get to the point you at now. We'd be further ahead if they didn't sign Kemba and Evan Fournier. We'd be further ahead right now. Okay, we'd be further ahead. We'd be closer where Cleveland is. But we could be there next year if they continue to rebuild. Now, this year's draft, as I said to y'all, because of what we already have drafted, it'll be difficult for whoever the player is to come in and play. It's going to be difficult. Even if you take Tom Thibodeau out the equation, okay, it'll be difficult because of who we have already. For anybody. Ivy, anybody. Jabari Smith, it'd be hard for any of them to get playing time on the Knicks without somebody getting traded. I mean, Tom already said, you already got a rotation. You can't add to it without taking somebody out. Now, I fully expect the Fourniers, the Kembas, Burkses, even maybe Taj, but definitely the mother, because the minutes Taj is getting should be going to Obi. Period. Obi and Cam should be splitting the minutes, but that's another story. But I expect them to be gone. So if they're gone next season, you're moving up in there and you're moving these kids up into those minutes. Still, then you might, if there's a trade made, you might have a position, that you could get somebody. But, already Tibbs, if it's Tibbs, he's not playing no rookie point guard. Y'all can forget Ty. I'm sorry. He's not going to. If he came to the Knicks, he wouldn't play. We got Joko Bidas still, who just balled out in the Euro League. And he probably buried in the bench and playing G League just like Deuce is doing now. Y'all gotta get real here, man. Don't get hyped with everybody in the draft like, he can play next. I hear people doing that. Oh, this guy will fit right next to RJ. No, he won't. He gonna fit on the pine. Y'all got to get real. Okay? If we had a chance to draft Jabari Smith, we have to take him, right? But then what you gonna do? You gonna trade Randall? Maybe. Trade Obi? Maybe. But otherwise the kid won't play. Okay? And he's a really good prospect. Jabari Smith, really good. I think he got a chance to be a really good NBA player. But we got to figure this out. We got a lot of guys on the team. Okay, and that's because, like I told y'all, the last 4 drafts we have picked very well, and we're in a very good spot right now. So that we really, this draft, they could trade this pick. They could trade this pick and package it with somebody, and and do something else and get a better player or open up space or something. They could do that, because I don't know where the next guy would play. And I love Tari Eason. I love that kid. I think he's going to be a real good player. I think he's one of the steals. This is what happened last year. Some of y'all won't remember, but I started talking up certain guys early. The kid Murphy from Virginia. I was like, man, this kid's going to be good. I liked Duarte before anybody was even talking about him. Then all of a sudden, these guys' stocks started, well, I'm not saying it's my fault, but other people were discovering them, and they stock started rising, and they were out of our reach, because I thought for sure we would be able to get Trey Murphy III or Duarte with our pick. But no, them cats was gone, right? So their stock rose, and I think that's what's going to happen with Tari. I like Tari, man, from LSU. They got him 13th pick. That's about the range we might be in, or close to it. So, but I'm thinking his stock might rise. Tari's stock might rise. He's really good. The power forward position is chopped this year. It's really stacked. This draft is a power forward draft all the way around. Jovic from Europe is 6'10". They got really good power forwards in this draft. Period. Really do. The new breed that can shoot, that can run, do all that stuff. They got a few, and they got like 5 or 6 of them in this draft. It's pretty stacked. So we'll see. But that's why we're still in rebuild year 2. All those players I just named. And they're all getting better. See, some of y'all can't see past yesterday or the last game. You got to look further. You got to look back over 21, 20, 19, 2018, and see what the Knicks have done to get us here. Because all we have to do now is subtract some vets and push these kids into these minutes. And when we do, we move into we're going to be Cleveland next year. Okay? We're going to be Cleveland. Atlanta did the same thing. They did the same thing. They got Herter, right? They got Herter, of course, Trae Young, right? They drafted Collins. They drafted DeAndre Hunter. Those are starters. Okay. Then they went and signed Clint Capella, another guy that can't shoot threes, but he's there 5. And they went and signed Bogdanovich, ancillary pieces, Lou Williams. And then they was pushing for the finals last year. That's the formula, right? So people talking about, I heard some people talking about the Knicks being in purgatory. We got to get to the point where we could be in purgatory. Purgatory means you get to the first round and get beat. You get to the second round consistently and get beat. That's purgatory. We ain't even there yet. We still in rebuild. Worry about purgatory. You get out of purgatory by making them subtle moves once you develop your core that you rebuilt with. That's where we're at right now. We got the core that we're rebuilding with. The subtle moves and trying to get a superstar, that ain't the game right now. The game is to play these kids that we drafted. Mitchell Robinson, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, or traded for in Cam's case, right? Obi, IQ, Deuce. That's the game right now. Quentin, that's the game. Getting them minutes, getting them experience, and then moving forward. Okay. Now, Randall, some of y'all talking about trade Randall, and I can understand either way. If we traded him, fine. If we don't, fine. But I am saying Randall is a very good third option. And a possible good second option. But you make him the third option. And look, I really believe RJ is going to be the number 1 option. Cam could be 1A. That's how good you are. Grimes also. All of those could be first or second options on an offense. That's how good I believe the talent that we have in developing. That will make Randall a second or third option, and the Knicks will be better for it. If they make Randall the primary focus, which they haven't really, when we're winning and playing our best, he's not the focus. Even this year. Okay? When he is the focus, it's kind of difficult. You're depending on his mental state, right? But if he is not the focus and you're focusing on getting the ball to RJ to initiate the offense, you're focusing on running Quentin Grimes through 10 million screens to get him a wide open 3, Well, that's a different story. Okay. And that depends on how Randall plays. So we'll see. But if he, and I think he's willing to do that to win. I think he is. But we'll see. If he's not, he got to go. But he's not a number one option. He's been put in that position because of our success last year. And that now retarded our growth. Okay. But now we back to earth. Tom got 4 or 5 games to stick with his win now approach before deuce time starts again. If we win, fine. Deuce time is delayed. Okay, fine, because we winning. But if not, you're going to have that young boy from West Virginia with the keys real quick. And we're going to be better for it. Okay? But that's the deal. So this whole Kemba thing, we kind of knew that was coming. That's not a big deal. But Alec Burks is starting point guard. And then he might even start D Rose. He is a knucklehead because you start D Rose, you're going to see him get hurt. You're going to see him run out of gas trying to help the team. He don't even want to start. He wants to come off the bench. Okay? So we'll see what happens, man. But y'all enjoy this Thursday. This is the beginning of what I see as 4 games that's going to determine when deuce time starts. And when deuce time starts, the deuce era begins, the Knicks go to that Cleveland level. Because Deuce is going to be every bit as good as Garland, in my opinion. Shalom.